Look at me. That's the household that we live in, where we have no sound when we start streams. That's the way this goes. Welcome to Paulogia Live, where a former Christian takes up the claims of Christians live. We are here today to work out bugs in the system, which is one of the reasons why we, the no sound thing, that makes a lot of sense. There's my dog. Unfortunately, when the dog hears something outside the room, then she wants to leave. And so that might be problematic. We got a screen for that. We'll see how it goes. This is my inaugural stream on my new channel, Paulogia Live, which up until this point has mainly had a computer reading written debates. So that was kind of inappropriate. So it's nice to finally have a live stream here. I'm waiting for my dog to bark. Anyway, so I'm planning to do a few test shows before I actually have actual shows. That's what you guys are seeing right now. Why you are here, I have no idea. You may want to tune out, whatever you want to do. It's all good. I'm trying to figure out the bugs. Welcome to, and also for those of you who don't know, I'm now in Nova Scotia. I'm no longer in Alberta. And so I've had a couple of streams from this room, but they weren't on my channel. So we're trying things out for new. I have no idea what the format of the show is going to be. I have some ideas, but I look forward to feedback from all of you, both here, Twitter, wherever you want to give me feedback on what's happening. But I had an idea for this show. So one of the things I was doing last year was looking for the Christian videos on YouTube that had the most views, just to see. I like to respond to what is most relevant and getting the most views on the Christian side of things, because presumably those are the claims of Christians that are getting the most traction. And I found a video that was 12 years old. And I decided that I kind of wanted to do that, respond to that video on my main channel. I played it for Shannon, and she decided that it was too low bar for my main channel, but it might be perfect for a live show like this where I'm paying more attention to all the buttons and all the things in front of me more than the debunking that we hope to do here today. But when I went to do it, I actually ran into another problem, because 12 years ago, YouTube was a very different place. And 12 years ago, you could just do whatever you wanted copyright-wise. And so for some reason, the video that we're going to be covering today was playing the Star Wars Cantina music looped throughout. For those of you who don't know what the Star Wars Cantina music is, hopefully that is not too much for me to get copyright strike here today. But that music was playing throughout the video, which of course made it seem even sillier than it actually was. But we are going to go through this video. And it's called How to Make It. What's it called? How to Make an Atheist's Mind Explode. Or actually, How to Make an Atheist's Head Explode, which is even worse. Let's see how it goes.
Hey, Mr. Atheist, what's going on?
Hey, stupid God believer. You're stupid.
So we're off to a good start. Perhaps you could hear there. Hopefully you can hear the actual audio. We're off to a great start. This atheist is calling the person stupid off front, which is, I feel bad for whoever this was, whoever's making this video. I don't really know this website, or I don't even know if they exist anymore. They obviously had some bad experience, probably with online atheists who looked down on them, called them stupid, and this was kind of their revenge hit piece, characterizing the atheist in the least charitable way by making that atheist be as unlikable as possible. If you didn't hear, you may have heard some muffling. I actually had to do, the reason I brought up the whole Cantina music, I actually had to script the Cantina music out of this video. So if some of the audio is there a little bit weird, that was the deal there.
Gee, you sure are grumpy, and you sound just like Patrick from SpongeBob.
I'm not sure what it is with creationists and SpongeBob SquarePants. I was never a huge fan, but Kent Hovind loves SpongeBob SquarePants. If you ever watch his Whack an Atheist videos, including the ones where he's whacked me, he has a lot of SpongeBob paraphernalia. I don't really know what the connection is. If anyone does, put it in the chat.
Whatever.
So, Mr. Atheist, I'd like to know what you think about the supernatural.
There's no such thing as the supernatural, just like there's no such thing as God.
Oh, let me.
Just like there's no such thing as the flying spaghetti monster.
So this is not just an atheist. This is a philosophical naturalist. For those of you who don't know, a lot of science runs on what's called methodological naturalism. That's where, for the sake of while we're doing science, that we are going to assume that there's no. It's not that we're assuming there's no supernatural. We're going to not posit supernatural explanations for natural events. So, methodologically, while we're doing these experiments, we're not going to care whether or not God did it. And I've never even seen Christian scientists opposed to this. I talked to a lot of Christian scientists, and they're like, yeah, you can't be positing that the temperature went up because angels were dancing or because, demons got involved. That's just not how we do science. The trouble is with methodological naturalism, it seems like creationists and some other Christians take it one step further and they assume that we assume philosophical naturalism. And that's just the hard stance where there is no supernatural, which is what the atheist in this video posited. That's not my position. I think it's potentially possible that there is a supernatural realm. The trouble is, I've never seen supernatural really defined in a way that even actually makes sense. So first I would need that definition, and then I guess I would need some kind of demonstration. The trouble is, of course, the idea would be, well, how can you have physical demonstration of something that is non-physical? But if you are like a Christian or someone else in another religion who posits that the supernatural interacts with the natural, wherever that interaction happens has to be demonstratable, right? There has to be some measurable thing happening. So it's not an philosophically impossible test. So I feel like that's a reasonable ask on my part. However, unlike myself, this particular nasty atheist in the video is a philosophical naturalist. Fine. Although I don't think that the Christian who made this video did a great job of. You'll be surprised. They're strawmanning a little bit. They are not exactly representing atheist positions very well. But kudos to them. If I give them one credit, they actually used the flying spaghetti monster correctly in this one case. That is actually a case where I've heard a lot of atheists substitute in flying spaghetti monster for God or for the supernatural. So credit where credit's due.
Oh, I see. Well, let me ask you this. Do you believe in the principle of cause and effect?
So here we're going to have the principle of cause and effect, of course, is a generally agreed philosophical principle. It's not a scientific principle per se. But unfortunately, he's going to go from principle, as we watch, it's going to go from principle to rule to law. And those are some of the words where there's conflating, and it's not exactly that precise.
You mean the rule that says something cannot come from nothing?
And of course, that is not at all what that is. Something coming from nothing is the first law of thermodynamics, where matter and energy can be neither created nor destroyed. That has nothing to do with the principle of cause and effect. So immediately wrong about that. But also, this is the Frank Turek's type style line. You hear a lot of apologists say something coming from nothing, which is, of course, not something that a philosophical naturalist like this atheist would posit. Generally, a philosophical naturalist will affirm that there always was something, and that nothing isn't really a thing that can be demonstrated, be it a quantum vacuum or a singularity, or there's some debate, of course, about what that was. what the meaning of such a thing can be absent space-time or outside of our space-time. We don't even know if we're a subset of general space-time. But there's something rather than nothing. Christians, please stop saying that, because it's not something that we posit. That is the God hypothesis, that something came from nothing.
And every effect must have a cause? Yeah, of course, you moron. And that's why I don't believe in your stupid God. Because your God would totally break that rule, idiot.
So he's kind of right here. If there is a God, the way a Christian would define God, such a God would be outside the realm of cause and effect, because the Christian would say that the God is the first cause. It is the prime mover that is the uncaused first cause, as William Lane Craig says. So, yes, definitely the existence of a God would break the principle of cause and effect, but it is not a rule per se. Of course, because we're talking about our universe had an instantiation. The instantiation of our universe has defined beginning of our time and our space, but we don't know what it looks like outside of that. So we don't even know what it would mean. The rule of cause and effect outside of time may not be a coherent concept. So this would be a bad argument for an atheist to make. No surprise a Christian is making an atheist give a bad argument, not a surprise there. Also, that'd be a weird reason not to believe in God. I feel like a philosophical naturalist like this would not believe in the God because there haven't been demonstrated evidence of this God, not because of a philosophical, non-scientific principle. So this is just weird. Also, when you're having conversations with someone, don't call them morons. I think that's pretty easy. If you're going to have a civil conversation, at least don't open with that.
How about the Big Bang Theory? You agree with that?
Duh, of course. That's how the universe started. A big explosion of matter and energy.
So again, the atheist is not giving the proper argument. So therefore, the Christian who made this probably doesn't understand the proper argument. A red flag right there. Of course, it's not an explosion of matter and energy. It is better phrased as the expansion of space-time. Matter and energy is generally agreed upon, in whatever sense makes sense, predates the Big Bang. That may or may not make sense in terms of time, but matter and energy existed before the Big Bang. So, no, it's not an explosion. That's not how it works.
It wasn't some supernatural force. Creationist moron.
Again, adherence to the Big Bang Theory is very popular among Christians. Most Christians accept Big Bang cosmology, and they would argue that it was a supernatural force. There's really nothing in the science that precludes that cause being supernatural. Even as an atheist, this is too far a stretch.
Okay, Mr. Atheist. If you agree that something can't come from nothing, then who or what caused the Big Bang?
Of course, if we agree that something came from nothing, yeah, because we don't ever think there was such a thing as nothing. No one's ever demonstrated nothing. Even there's a philosophical nothing, what rocks dream of, but in terms of material realm, nothing doesn't make sense. So, and then, of course, the Christian is doing the classic smuggling in the who or what caused the Big Bang. They're trying to smuggle in the who, I guess, by using what, they're having it out. We don't know what caused the Big Bang. That is not a problem per se, because I'm willing to say we don't know yet.
In other words, where did the original matter and energy come from that started the Big Bang?
So again, where did the original matter and energy come from? That is a really good question. And the answer to that is, we don't know. If you want to look at infinite regress in terms of, for example, we said, let's say we came up with something, let's say the flying spaghetti monster caused the original matter and energy, then you would just say, well, what caused the flying spaghetti monster? And then what caused the cause of the flying spaghetti monster? you would have an infinite regress of looking for the first cause. I'm pretty convinced, although I could be wrong because I'm not a philosopher, that something does have to be a brute fact that terminates any infinite regress. And that's not really a problem. Christians would say that the brute fact is God, and someone like me would say, well, the brute fact is matter and energy, or other scientists would say that it might be something else, might be quantum particles, might be something. But the fact that there is a material brute fact is, okay, so we both have a brute fact, God, material, but we can demonstrate that material exists. We can demonstrate matter and energy. So positing that as a brute fact is one fewer assumption than positing a deity or multiple deities as a brute fact, because that's multiplying assumptions because we don't have a demonstration of that. So we as atheists or non-believers in Christianity, we do actually have to admit that we are banking on a brute fact that we can't cause, but we actually have the brute fact that has fewer assumptions.
You idiot. The universe is a constant. It's just always been there.
I guess this is actually close to my first answer. The universe has always been there. If by universe you mean the cosmos, the material realm, however you want to say it, our particular universe wasn't always there, and that would be silly. Since he said he believed in the Big Bang, that would be a silly thing for him to say. And it's also silly to say it's a constant, although it's tough to know, again, once you get outside of time, what would it mean to not be constant if there isn't something temporal? So I think this is actually where most scientists would go, is that as a brute fact, there always has been, in whatever sense that makes sense out of time, something.
Well, if you're right, that means the universe defies the law of cause and effect, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. That's what a brute fact is. A brute fact is something that you can't explain. It has no actual cause. Most worldviews require this. So, yes.
And that would make the existence of our universe supernatural.
No. The fact that there is a brute fact that terminates only has to be supernatural if you posit that what that brute fact is was supernatural. If you posit that it was just if you posit that it was matter energy, fine. Then it's not supernatural. That's a natural thing.
Which means we both believe in a supernatural cause for our existence.
No.
Well,
Literal head explosion. Although not bad animation for what was probably, like, this is 2008-ish? Probably Flash animation. Not bad.
you idiot. The universe just kind of started on its own. The Big Bang was how the universe created itself.
I've not heard this one. I've traveled in secular atheist realms for a few years now. Read a lot of the books. The universe kind of starting on its own, unless they're trying to think this is the Lawrence Krauss something from nothing hypothesis, where basically if this is a rephrasing, if I'm trying to steel man to say that something natural started the universe, okay. But none of that would terminate the infinite regress, so no big deal.
How would the universe create itself? That would also break the law of cause and effect.
I guess it depends on what he means by created. If it was how would the universe cause itself, like how would the material realm cause our particular universe, that doesn't seem like a tricky question. So he's smuggling in the word create, of course. You'd have to first demonstrate that we were created in some sense. And again, if the material realm wasn't created, then it can be the first cause, not a big deal. And we don't even know if our universe was the first universe created, which we'll get into in a second.
You just said that was a big reason you don't believe in God. So then, shouldn't you stop believing in our universe?
I don't think that that's really the law of cause and effect, or the philosophy of cause and effect isn't a big reason why people don't believe in God. I don't hear that one a lot. So, fine. Yeah, don't disbelieve in God because of cause and effect.
Well, haven't you heard of virtual particles? Scientists have found particles that might come into existence from literally nothing. So maybe something can come from nothing.
I am not a scientist. Up until like 5 years ago, I believed basically what Ken Ham and Kent Hovind believed. I was a young Earth creationist, so I am not the expert on this kind of thing. But virtual particles is again, it's an appeal to and they put it in quotes on screen. They want it to seem like the atheist is now resorting to pseudoscience. Of course, he's generally referring to quantum stuff. Anyone who believes that they understand, it's my understanding that if you believe you understand quantum science, then that proves that you don't understand quantum science. I don't think they posit that they come into existence from literally nothing in terms of the philosophical nothing sense. If you've read Lawrence Krauss's book, Universe from Nothing, nothing very much isn't in the philosophical sense. It is the existence of matter and energy. So, again, we're not positing something to come from nothing, even those who appeal to the quantum realm.
Well, if you're right.
And if this had been an edited video, that's one of the problems with this. I need to figure this out. If this had been an edited video, I would immediately jump to the scene in Ant-Man, where Ant-Man says, "What do you people just add the word quantum to anything?" See, that would have been a great clip to use, but I didn't have it queued up here. Rats.
Doesn't that make God scientifically possible?
I think God is scientifically possible, or at least that science doesn't rule out the possibility of God, especially if that God is more of a deistic God, something that created the universe and maybe doesn't interact with the natural realm after that. I don't think that if you are making the argument that God is not scientifically possible, I think you're on pretty shaky ground. But if you disagree with me, let me know in the comments and we'll talk about it. Speaking of which, I know I'm ignoring the chat right now because this is my first time doing this, and I can't keep track of all of those things all at once. But I promise that I will look at the chat once we are done with this short video, which is almost done. And if any of you have any questions, you can feel free. Am I lagging? Am I behind? Oh, maybe not. I don't know. I will look at all the technical problems later.
Well, I've heard some really smart atheists talk about other dimensions of time or an eternally oscillating universe.
So it's weird how suddenly this character is backtracking and referring back to really smart atheists. Again, that's a Christian mindset that you appeal to authority, you appeal to the Bible generally, or to God, or to a pastor, or to the Catholic Church, whatever you're appealing to. So, again, he's backtracking to talking about other really smart scientists. Again, maybe that's the way this guy's debates were going. But in terms of other dimensions of time, or an eternally oscillating universe, that's generally talking about the multiverse theory in some senses. There's also theories of where perhaps we've had big bangs and then contractions and then another big bang and big contractions that have gone on for an infinite amount of time. None of those things, if the Christian objection is that these things don't solve the problem, which is what Frank Turek always says, it's just kicking the can down the road to appeal to a multiverse for fine-tuning arguments, things like that. I actually agree. That is just making it one step further. Again, you ultimately will need a brute fact, so this is kind of a weird objection.
Stuff like that might explain a universe without a first cause.
No, it wouldn't. That would be a poor argument to make for not a first cause. I think it's a reasonable argument for fine-tuning if you are of the opinion that the universe is fine-tuned, which I'm not convinced of.
Wow. Well, can those things be observed scientifically?
No.
So can those things be observed scientifically? The two things that were posited were other space-time dimensions, other universes, or an eternally oscillating universe. Those things cannot be demonstrated by science right now. That's not the same thing as they can never be scientifically demonstrated. I personally can't imagine how they would. I'm not sure how we can get outside of our own space-time and investigate other space-times. That said, other top men are working on it. Again, if this was an edited video, we would cut to Indiana Jones, top men. I love that scene. But again, if someone was making this argument, it's not a great one for not needing a first cause.
Isn't that one of your biggest complaints about God?
Yeah.
In case we've lost the thread on the video here, the biggest complaints about God would be that God violates this principle of cause and effect. Actually, I think he was just saying that the complaint would be that God isn't scientifically provable. I actually do agree that most of the gods that are posited, no one's provided a good test that we could make scientifically provable or not. At least you can't disprove the God hypothesis through scientific method. That is part of the problem with the theistic theory, unfortunately. There is no way to confirm it, and there's no falsification criteria either. For me, before I can take it seriously, I will need some falsification criteria. Something you can point to me and said, oh, if you demonstrated this, that would falsify God. So, for example, the Christians normally put forth some other claims about the qualities that God might have. They might say that he's all-knowing or all-powerful or all-benevolent or all-loving or something, one of the omnis. Once you posit the omnis, then we can talk about falsification criteria. But if you're just going with this weird deistic thing, you haven't made much of a claim because it doesn't make predictions, so it can't appeal to predictive power.
Oh. Never mind. I've decided I don't totally agree with the law of cause and effect, okay?
I'll let it play.
Okay. That means you can no longer use that law to argue against God.
He shouldn't. The philosophical naturalist, atheist character here with the Darwin t-shirt shouldn't have used the principle of cause and effect as an argument against God. If you want to argue that way, I think what you should present again is that by saying that God is the first mover, by God is something the uncaused thing. Who created God is one of the things that you often hear. When I was a Christian, I would hear that objection, who created God? That doesn't bother Christians because they just say he's uncaused. But if that's what you want to appeal to, then you are making one more assumption than the person who is just saying that the natural realm has always existed. And we have one more head explosion. The end. How to make an atheist head explode. Number 1. I was never able to find number 2. Unfortunately, there wasn't a sequel. Perhaps it would have been one of those great sequels that was better than the original. Anyway, now I've done a video and we've talked about it. So, if anyone wants to tag me in the chat, this would be the time to do that. Unfortunately, I wasn't saving these up. I wasn't looking for anything. I do see, and I'm not wearing my proper glasses, so we'll see how this goes. So we have Dora Niku said, aren't you omnipotent, Paul? Disappointed. Yes, I am not. I'm not omnipotent. Sadly, I couldn't even start my stream with my mic on, so that should set the level of expectation. One was so good, 2 was unnecessary. I don't have context for that, but awesome. Shannon Q asked, why am I so hot? Well, that is easy. Anyone who thinks that I'm hot, obviously there is a principle, and I would say it's even more of a principle than the law of cause and effect, that when you hang out with hot people, or if someone really attractive is attracted to you, then that makes you look more attractive. The whole movie Can't Buy Me Love was actually, based on that principle. And so because I have the hottest girlfriend in the world, that makes me seem I have some artificial inflated sense of hotness there. That's what the answer is there. Dora tagged me, and that really didn't help. I'm not sure. Oh, but I did respond to you before, so thank you, Dora. Luca says, "You did good!" with an exclamation mark. At some point, maybe I will have a way to put this stuff on screen. I'm not doing that. Thank you, Luca. I appreciate that. This is, again, just the test, and it may not even stay live. We'll see how that goes. I'm not even sure. One of my tests will be how well my computer sustained the frame rates, whether or not you could hear the fan, because the fan's going pretty hard. There's a lot of technical mumbo jumbo and jargon going on, but fortunately, my dog slept the entire time, so I did not have to use. I had it all prepared. I had a whole dog have to go for a dog emergency screen prepared that we didn't have to use. Wait, is Shannon Q hot or is Paulogia live hot? Well, Shannon Q is hot and I am not. That is the easy answer to that. I think the whole culture of apologetics and engaging with skeptics in this way is self-defeating. It seems dishonest when the type of person I was being brainwashed to be. Totally agree, Michael. This type of video obviously was not meant to be a serious refutation. What it was supposed to be was something for Christians who get in conversations to have something to laugh at. I guess we all like to laugh at times at our interlocutors or someone who disagrees with us, to think that they're silly and ridiculous. That's not really the kind of conversations I like to have. And that actually is one of the reasons I'm starting this channel, for in case anyone cares or is curious, is that I would like to start doing less reaction stuff. Not less reaction, but add to what I'm doing reaction-wise and have conversations with people, including having guests on who might agree with me and have discussions, or maybe even get into something a little more heated, potentially. Maybe not quite debates, but lively discussions, shall we say? Oh, a lame joke. You said tag me in the chat. Well, I did. I was not paying attention. Have you, sir, considered looking at the trees? You know, I'm going to do that this afternoon. I'm going to take Belle out again, second walk, and I'm going to look at the trees, and maybe I will just pull this channel down and the other channel. We'll see how it goes. Can Paul take animated Paul in a fight? No. Animated Paul is much healthier and stronger and smarter. Doesn't say and always has the right move. Can anticipate everything that I'm doing because he knows everything that I know. So animated Paul would win. All right. Well, I think that is probably what we've got going for today. There's no more questions. I can't accept super chats because this channel is not monetized. So, am I more interested in lively discussions or something more like SE? Street epistemology is what I'm assuming you mean by SE. I have had Anthony Magnabosco on my channel. I've met him in person several times. Very nice person. And actually, he's a patron of my other channel. Anthony, anyway, all that to say, I'm not as interested in SE because I think SE works on the individual level of having conversations with someone in your real life. So I might have SE with an individual whom I don't know, either online or in person. But I'm not sure that's what my channel is about. So there are people who do SE. Cordial Curiosity, I think, is the name of one of them. Obviously, Anthony Magnabosco is another. And there's lots of them that really do SE well. And they do it on video as examples of how to have really good conversations. Because I'm not practiced at that, I would be hesitant to put it up because I wouldn't be the good example. And I'm not sure what people would be getting out of that. Anyway, the kind of conversations I would like to have are more where I have disagreements of opinion about facts, particularly around the New Testament or around science, where we can hopefully agree to the facts up front and then talk about how to interpret them, or if someone has a entirely different take on things than I have, that'd be interesting. And because I am not particularly well versed in a lot of these things, I'm still learning along with a lot of you. I'm still only 5 or 6 years in on this whole journey, just to learn more. I had John Steingard interviewed with him yesterday for an upcoming video, and I just learned so much from him. And John is a newer non-Christian than I am, but he's just thought about things in a whole different way than I have. And so I think when you have those kind of conversations, you can get more than just one person's opinion, which is awesome. Haha, Dora knows for a fact that all my patrons are really cool people. Yes, thank you, Dora, for your support. Shannon Q asks, what kind of conversation partners would I like? Who's my dream guest? Well, ultimately, my dream guests would be like Lee Strobel and J. Warner Wallace, who I know Shannon thinks are the same person, and there's an argument to be made for that. I would like Christian influencers or people I would love to have conversations with. It wouldn't necessarily have to be them, but anyone who's a Christian influencer. I'm hoping to have conversations with apologists. I would also really love to have guests that don't necessarily fit my other channel well in the atheist sphere. I would love to have chats with people like Holy Kool-Aid, whom I haven't had on my other channel, for example, because we do a lot of the same kind of things. But he's got a really interesting story. Anyway, I guess other YouTubers would be another great thing. Would be a lot of fun to have, just to help me tackle some of these kind of things and do it more on the fly. Anyway, I haven't given a lot of thought about that because I'm still working up. These are the Training Wheels shows. This show may not even exist in an hour, so we'll see how that goes. JAAA asks, why has the New Testament been a bigger part of your concerns than the Old? It's a good question. I feel like, just like anything, one builds on the other. And so I suppose if you could disprove the Old Testament, because the New Testament builds on that, you could disprove the New Testament as well. I feel like the evidence for the New Testament, because it's just more recent, can be more definitive. Like, it's very tough to say what was happening, say, 1800 years BC, when a lot of the Old Testament was being written. But also, when I was raised a Christian, it was largely considered the Old Testament was the Old Covenant. And just a lot of that didn't apply as anyway. So anytime something like the slavery verses or not eating shellfish or homosexuality, however you feel about that in the church or outside the church, I'm in support of anyone in the LGBTQ community, obviously, now at this point. But however a Christian might feel about that at the time, you can kind of wave that away by saying it was Old Covenant. So the New Covenant is more the heart of the matter. And if the resurrection, I believed Paul the Apostle when he said, if the resurrection isn't true, then my words are useless and so is your faith. And so really my focus was on that. And I knew that because Jesus and Paul both affirmed like historical Adam and a lot of the details in the Old Testament. So I would kind of get a 2-for-1 that way. But part of my falling away was the fact that Jesus, oddly enough, that Jesus affirmed historical Adam, and I had kind of ruled out historical Adam when I came to accept evolution, human evolution, that kind of thing, common descent. I know a lot of Christians find a way to reconcile common descent, evolution, with their view of Genesis and with their view of the Old Testament. I simply couldn't, and I still can't. I don't fully understand it myself, how one can reconcile those things. Anyway, all that said, also, when I was a teen and as a young adult, I memorized most of the New Testament. There was a time when I could quote most of the New Testament to you. I've since lost most of that skill. However, it's just the book I'm more familiar with. Holy Kool-Aid is very open to streams. He did one with me, says Godless Granny. Yay, yeah. No, I've definitely, Thomas and I are friends, and would love to, do something with him in a while. It is weird sometimes, though, these other YouTubers who do something very similar to me, and Thomas is similarly focused on the New Testament and a lot of the same kind of things I cover. We don't complement each other that well. It's nice when you have a guest that come and brings skills that you don't have. So anyway, I would love to have him on at some point. Although I would love to also animate Thomas, so that would be. This channel is not going to be animated. That's part of the use of it. Do you find most this is from Glenn Frank. Do you find that most apologists who do respond debate you on their videos just to do it to refute your statements basis and versus willing to do a real conversations and debate? Most apologists are doing it just as a one-off refutation, which I can't blame them for, because that is largely what I do on my channel as well. Like, I'm not generally inviting the apologists on, although I would be happy to talk to anyone who I've made a video about. Absolutely anyone. I mean, weirdly, I've got this strange new relationship with Eric Hovind, and we chat. And Sean McDowell and I, we've had conversations both on air and off. So anyway, I don't think that they're looking for conversations. I also don't think that apologetics are meant for non-believers. I think apologetics is entirely meant for people who are in the church to stop the bleeding. It's to affirm what you already hold. As William Lane Craig says, he wouldn't find any of his arguments compelling if he was a non-believer. He needed the witness of the Holy Spirit first to tell him that it was true, which may sound familiar to Mormons who had the burning of the bosom type thing. But William Lane Craig is saying, yeah, if it weren't for the Holy Spirit, I wouldn't believe this stuff. The arguments are meant to give you a plausible reason to stay if you want to stay. Lamb Roast asks, most if not all ex-Muslims and many fundamentalist Muslims say that he was one. Oh, well, I don't know what that's in reference to, because I'm not good at following the chat yet. Oh, because there's an earlier post from Lamb Roast said, why did you defend Islam in your debate commentary with Mike Winger? You said Muhammad being a pedophile was controversial and debated. So to be pedantic, I guess that was written on screen. I didn't say that. I'm not sure how it is defending Islam to say that it's controversial and debated. I mean, Muslims do deny that there was anything wrong with that marriage. And I and millions of others think that there definitely was something very wrong with that marriage. So it seems like controversial and debated is a relatively good way to describe it, but maybe you can follow up with me as to why that would be a defense to soften it. All right. And it seems like that's all I'm tagged in right now. And I've gone on for 47 minutes, which is longer than I expected. So if you've hung on this long, then thanks for your response. You're welcome, Lamb. Thank you so much for tuning in. I don't know why you did. Sorry, I hope I didn't waste your time, but I enjoyed this. I'm hoping to do more in the future. Again, this is a test show, so any and all critiques are entirely welcome. So please leave something in the comments if there's something about the format or the tech issues or something you might like to see me do in the future on this live channel. I'm open to all that because we are in the infancy stages at this point. Thank you so much for watching. I have a nice end screen. I will do it like what Shannon Q does. I will put this up for a few seconds and say, so long. Thanks for watching. Later.